Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Outside Line Podcast. My name is Jacob Barker. Today, I am joined by Chris Shoemaker and Mason Wood. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
I'm doing good. Had a good Mother's Day. Spent it with my mom. What
Good
about
person
you
to spend it
guys?
with.
Yeah. Happy belated Mother's Day to everyone.
Absolutely.
We had a fantastic and exciting weekend of racing, I'd say, alongside with our Mother's Day weekend. I'd say that was pretty crazy.
Absolutely. Some good
Totally.
racing Saturday, good racing Sunday. It was a good weekend for racing.
Yeah, and don't forget we had a truck race Friday night as well, so that was pretty fun. So let's just get right into it. Opening with our F1 segment. This coming weekend is, and I know, Chris, I know this is going to aggravate you just a little bit. Is Imola? Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, man. I know it bothers you.
Child. At least you're not saying Imola.
No, that's
Do
not.
Italians race at Imola? Italians.
Italians. It's a good question. But yes, this coming weekend is the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix for Formula One.
Whereas I keep calling it San Marino.
San Marino, yeah. I don't expect anything different from this weekend, considering the fact that Red Bull has been dominant every year and every race so far this year. I don't think we see anything different.
Oh, no.
If we
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I was going to say if we do see somebody challenge them for the win this race, it would have to be Mercedes, because I think they're the closest to Red Bull, and they're still seconds off from a Red Bull, unfortunately.
I don't know. I'm thinking Ferrari because that's Ferrari's home turf, and they're going to be under a lot of pressure. And they have been making a lot of progress in the recent weeks, and I think they might have a chance to sneak one out.
Well, and they did not have a great Grand Prix at Imola last year, so there's a lot there for them, especially with it being their home turf. So the pressure is on for them. It's just going to be up to them if they perform and if they can stop Red Bull, who was 1-2 there last year, and certainly it looks like they can be 1-2 there once again this year.
I don't know. I just have a hunch.
Yeah, I think we talked about this last week with Ferrari, because with the Italian press being there, it's going to be crazy there, not only for Ferrari but just in general for the fans and for all the race teams. So it's going to be crazy there if Ferrari does not perform well at Imola. It'll be a madhouse there.
Something to keep in mind too, looking at about an 80% chance of rain this weekend. So that's going to play a factor in this weekend as well. Might get a little bit of rain in the race, so that could make things even more interesting. So I'm excited.
That'll be fun. That'll be interesting to watch, because we haven't had a solid wet weather race in quite some time, I'd say. Probably not since Monaco last year, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I remember last year. That last race wasn't that Monaco race. Didn't they stop it for no reason, and while it was raining or something, delay it?
They stopped it before the initial start because of all the standing water on the track. And then they started on the inters for the initial start.
I think we may see something pretty similar to that this year. According to the weather forecast right now, it says that it's actually supposed to rain throughout most of the day, and then right around the start of the race starts at 3 o'clock their time. So it's going to be it's going to be raining pretty good at that point, but towards the end of the race, it's going to be pretty dry. So it's definitely going to be a lot of managing the weather this weekend, and I think that's going to really play a factor in who comes out on top on Sunday.
If it is raining, though, I will say probably Max Verstappen is going to be the favorite because he drives in the rain a lot like how Schumacher drove in the rain. That's saying something.
Yeah, Max has always been really good in the wet. So it'll be interesting to see who can come out on top on Sunday with F1 at Imola, as I'm going to keep on calling it. So we were talking about this in our private chat, whether it was a couple of days ago or a day ago, whenever. Chris, you had said something about Logan Sargent. There being some rumors concerning his future at Williams. And there have also been some rumors with Nick Vries with his future at AlphaTauri. So very interesting developments very early into the season for two very young drivers, not only just young drivers, but talented drivers for what they have been able to do for underperforming teams so far in the season. Because Logan could have gotten a couple more points finishes if he hadn't had the bad luck snake bite him a couple times.
Yeah, I think both drivers, it's just way too early. It might be they're trying to find reasons to get rid of him. Like, that could be the case with Logan Sargent because it's rumored that Toto Wolff wants to get Schumacher into a seat, which would mean kicking out Logan Sargent. And apparently he's old buddies with the Williams team principal, James Vowles, and he's trying to pull some strings there, reportedly. So that would be bad for Logan Sargent because he's only had 5 races in his entire career. That is nowhere near enough to just judge somebody off of. The same thing with Nick DeVries.
Yeah, and we were talking about this earlier today. Perhaps it's also a bit of a thing going on with the FIA and the F1 not wanting an American driver in the field. So it's kind of crazy right now with all of these rumors going around with not only Logan Sargent but Nick DeVries as well. But like you said, we're 6 races into the season. Too early to judge someone off of those results. At least have them go through a full season, I'd say, to get a good concept, a good grasp on how their driving style and how they can perform in those cars, I would say.
You have to.
Yeah,
you have to have that time because in order to like, guys have to be able to adapt and they have to be able to learn. And I feel like Sargent's had the speed, he just hasn't been able to execute cleanly, and he's just had a lot of issues that with time can be worked out, can be worked on, and he can become more and more consistent. That would be the biggest thing. If he can do that, there's a lot of hope there, but he has to be able to show that promise at some point by the end of this year.
Yeah, I would think if he hasn't shown any promise by the time, say, Monza comes around, then they could maybe start making those statements that he might be in trouble. Same thing with Nick DeVries. That's usually been that point as Monza and or Spa. when they start judging drivers. But right now, it's guys haven't even had a chance, like Mason said, to adapt. So that's just not fair to the driver.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's just not fair at this rate. Um, because like we all said, they're 5 races in, not only to their career but to the season. So too early to tell what they have in their full potential as a Formula One driver. But let me ask this question. So if Sargent does end up getting the boots from Williams, would he go to another team, such as AlphaTauri possibly, or would he come to IndyCar?
Nah, I think he'd come back home, probably to IndyCar, if not go to sports car racing, because he can race circles around me, but I wouldn't say he's maybe a hot commodity in the F1 free agency, potential free agency, where other drivers would be a hotter commodity, like, say, for example, Pierre Gasly, Alex Albon, Esteban Ocon, etc.
Right. And I think it would be fun to see what Logan Sargent can do in an IndyCar, but only time will tell as to how everything will turn out with contract negotiations and future plans for Williams and Logan Sargent and AlphaTauri as well with Nick DeVries, because both those guys have a ton of talent. Um, but we've all been saying, it's 5 races into their season. DeVries had a one off at what was it, Imola last year, filling in for um, not Imola, Monza. So my apologies about that. Who did he fill in for? Wasn't Latifi?
Was it Max? Or am I thinking of a
No,
different season?
it was not Max. It was
Because it
the
seemed
last
like
season.
Max did sit out. Man, I think that might have been
Was it
2020.
Stroll? I don't remember. Let's look this up. Let's look it up on the Googles. Why don't we?
How fast can
So,
you go?
well, I don't know actually. So, Albon. That's who he filled in for.
Oh, okay.
So that's right, and he earned points in that race as well because he finished 10th, I think, because it was just a crazy race from what I remember at Monza last year because Albon had uh, appendicitis.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so you never know what's going to happen in auto racing.
I forgot about
so,
that.
so craziness is the name of the game right now. So back on to what we were saying. Too early to judge um, both Logan and Nick DeVries on what they can do, but it'd be interesting to see what happens to Sargent if he comes home to IndyCar or Supercars, but not but also Nick DeVries to see if he'll go to a different F1 team. That'd be the more likely scenario for him,
Yeah.
I'd imagine. Um, but it's hard seeing Logan Sargent go to a different F1 team if this does become the outcome for him in his future.
And as much as I want to see Schumacher get a seat, I still would be bad.
Yeah, because that's
Pick
not the
him
right
out.
way. Yeah, that's just not the right way of earning a seat. You got to earn it the proper way. And as much as I like Mick, um, you can't earn a seat by his name. But that's how it's happening, unfortunately.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't go that far because he did win the F2 championship a couple of years ago. And
That's
really,
right.
under normal circumstances, say if he was just some guy that won it, I still think he would at least get a F1 seat at some point. I'd think he would even be a reserve driver. So I think he deserves an F1 seat. I'll put it that way. So,
Yeah, I agree with that. It'll just time will just tell it where his path takes him,
but
and because
replacing,
he does have a lot of talent.
yeah, and replacing Sargent like that's different though because, like we were saying, Sargent hasn't had any time to prove himself yet.
Yep. So tying that in, um, actually, excuse me, that was yeah. So it was just a interesting development that came about, and the Logan Sargent um, rumors have become more prominent more recently, and like they came out like maybe 4 days ago, 5 days ago or so. And the Vries rumors, I feel like have been going for a while, like at least 2 weeks. So it'll be interesting to see what happens down the road. Um, so yeah, I don't know. It's just be if Mick earns his seat, he earns it, but not it. It won't sit well with, I think, any of us if he earns it in that way.
Yeah, and maybe too we're a little bit biased because we like seeing an American driver on the grid.
I definitely,
Still,
I definitely think at least like for me, there might be a little bit of bias there, but at the same time, it's
Yeah.
no different than how I feel with any motorsport where you have to earn that spot. So
but I
Hey,
remember I was joking the other day. We were talking about Nick DeVries. Me and a buddy of mine were talking about it, and I jokingly said, "Wouldn't it be a plot twist if Colton Herta got a super license and he ended up replacing DeVries?"
man, that'd be crazy.
That would be a plot twist.
Oh yeah, it'd be a better plot twist than WWE has had all year.
Uh, but yeah,
So
no, it would. That would just be bad for Sargent. And speaking of reserve F1 drivers, though, Ricardo, he's still stuck in his reserve spot. Do you think he comes to the U.S., tries NASCAR out?
no, I don't think so because he has expressed that he doesn't like ovals. He likes to race, but he does not like ovals because they apparently scare him.
Well, Roman Grosjean said the same thing, too.
Yeah, that's the thing that bothers me. Is I'm just like, well, why don't you try it out? Because he's tried a stock car out on a road course. I mean, a modified stock car, obviously, with his uh, Dale Senior ride a couple of years ago at Coda. Um, so I don't know. I like to think that Ricardo gets back into that Red Bull seat one day, but it's hard seeing that right now.
Yeah, I think his F1 days are done, to be honest with you. And
It, it,
I'd like to see him come to IndyCar or NASCAR.
oh, we said it a couple weeks ago. He's a great candidate for Project 91, but he just doesn't have the motivation to do it.
As we know of.
Yeah, that we know of. And of
maybe he'll
course, our
surprise
sources.
us.
Yeah, our sources are limited after all.
Yeah,
Um,
we're not exactly say USA Today or New York Post or whatever.
we aspire to be.
Sure.
So, yeah.
But no, really, no. We
Yeah.
always aspire to be the best. Stay in school,
So
kids.
stay in school, people. So let's go into IndyCar real quick. Now that we branched into our Daniel Ricciardo a little bit. So obviously, I would think that it'd be cool to see him get into an IndyCar seat. Do I think it'll happen? Probably not. But do I want it to happen? Yes. Because it's always a pleasure to see Daniel Ricciardo uh, in a starting lineup wherever he is. Um, so it'll be like we've been saying. It'll be interesting to see what his future holds in for him. Do I see him coming back to Red Bull? No. Do I want him to? Yes. But whether he goes the IndyCar route or does the Project 91 route, time will tell.
Or he goes back home to do supercars.
That would be fun. I would love that.
I think that's probably most likely scenario. He goes back home.
Most likely and most fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because watching what little I have watched V8 supercars, that stuff is wild.
Yes, it is.
It's very entertaining for that specific reason.
I remember I watched some clips of Bathurst, and they actually had to throw full course caution because kangaroos got on the track. That is the most Australian racing thing out there.
I love it.
Not the kangaroos. Kangaroo Jack on the track.
All right. So our current F1 World Championship points: Verstappen leading the way at 119, Perez 105, Alonso 75, Hamilton 56, Sainz 44, Russell at 40, Charles P7 with 34 points, Stroll is 8th with 27 points, Lando is P9 with 10 points, and Pierre Gasly is P10 with 8 points. So very long season to go for F1. Like we said earlier, Imola, I know that's still going to bother you, Chris, is this weekend. So be sure to tune in on ESPN for the Emilio Romagna Grand Prix.